And just like that, the magic continues right here on your Feel Good Breakfast Show, because if you're ready for a dose of inspiration, you've definitely come to the right place, right? If you ever wondered what inclusion really looks like in everyday life, well, today's guest literally is living it. We're talking about Laura Wagner-Meyer. She's a model, a designer, a motivational speaker, and the list goes on. Trust me, we'll find out about it in a bit. But this is someone who grew up navigating mobility challenges and decided early on that limitation wouldn't define her. And she now uses a platform to spark open, stigma-free conversations about confidence, well-being, and visibility.
Oh, I love that. And we all know this October we've been celebrating Mental Health Awareness Month. And right now we're asking how belonging, representation, and self-expression shape our mental health. So the gorgeous Laura joins us to share her journey and how small mindset shifts can truly change how we just treat ourselves and therefore treat each other. So Laura, welcome and thank you for being here.
How you doing?
Good, what an intro.
No, listen, you deserve, girl.
You deserve all of it, all of it. You're looking absolutely incredible this morning. Before we get into the conversation here, because there's a dose of inspiration that I know is coming our way, I want to just define, like, what is your challenge or what is your disability, if we were to even call it that? Like, what are you dealing with currently?
So it's called a congenital neural tube defect.
Okay.
So this is basically the fact that my spinal cord was open when I was born.
Oh.
Wow.
So yeah, pretty scary moment for my parents right off the bat.
Yeah.
I had to go into life-changing surgery for them to try and reconnect it. And it's a form of spinal bifida, actually.
Okay.
And I kind of just use crutches, get around as I need to. And it doesn't really stop me, I must say.
So they managed to
imagine.
close it off and protect it in a way that you could
Somehow
function?
they did. All of my organs were outside of my body when I was born, and they just happened to be able to reconstruct.
How are you alive?
Yeah,
That's
that in and of itself, yo.
Already, I'm like, Sheepers Creepers, a miracle already started right there.
Absolutely.
That's
No, it is.
that's
it really
insane.
Is. And I'm a twin who's completely able-bodied.
Come on, twin.
Okay, amazing.
That is, I'm just imagining also for your parents in that moment to have experienced that, right?
Yeah.
And then also years later to see you and like see your twin, obviously, and just realize that the overcoming is there, the perseverance is there, the gorgeous girly is there. Did you have a moment though in your childhood where it kind of set the tone for how you handle your life experience or how you experience life?
Yeah. Definitely. So when we were in grade 1, I was 6 years old, and we had what was called like a spring walk, right? And that's like the calendar event of the year when you're 6 years old. And I was so excited. It was a little 5K. I was going to do it with my friends. And my teacher decided to pull me out of the line. She said, no, you're actually not going to do it. Take a seat. I'm going to call your mom to fetch you.
Yeah.
And she just decided for me.
Wow.
And I thought to myself, okay, that's unusual. The second she left, I looked around and I thought, I'm going to do it.
Yes.
So I completely went and did the 5K by myself, no marshals. I just thought, you know what, I'm going to do this because I want to do it, not because anyone else is going to define that for me. And that was a moment that I realized that that's something that's going to continue for the rest of my life. You know, people are always going to make assumptions and decisions. And I just thought at 6 years old, actually, I get to make that choice.
Unreal.
So that was definitely like a defining moment at 6 years old to just think to myself, I know it's an adult and you think, okay, you know, you always have to obey your teachers.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be in so much trouble, but it's going to be worth it. Like, I need to set the precedent.
Yes, take
Yeah.
your agency back.
Exactly.
And what a defining moment, I think, to be blessed with that insight at such a young age.
Yeah.
Only you're just like dealing with anger and frustration. So somehow you were blessed with divine knowledge. But with regards to something that you mentioned earlier, and especially misconceptions and conceptions about certain people's issues and disabilities, you mentioned that that's kind of like quite a heavy one that you experience, especially in this day and age.
Yeah.
Well, how do you experience that, and how do you deal with that in terms of like turning that into like a flip side of sorts, or
Yes.
finding a silver lining? Is
Yeah.
there a way to do that?
Absolutely. I think, you know, people immediately look at me and they think, oh, she must have like a lesser kind of life, a limited life,
Yeah.
negative life, you know,
Sure.
and they immediately think that a disability is something to pity. And I just tell people all the time, my crutches are not a restriction. They're my tools of empowerment and independence. They allow me to get up and go and do what I need to do. So, you know, don't look at me and think, oh, shame. Look at me and be like, whoa.
You go, girl.
So that's the kind of thing I try and tell people. It's not anything to be pitied.
So you're saying it's a disability, it's just a different ability, essentially.
Exactly.
All right. I like that
I like the
mindset.
way
That
you
really is
said
making it make sense for me.
that.
Okay, I got you.
Here for it. I've got to ask you though, Laura. So you move around in the world along with everybody else that's differently able to. And I think when it comes to children, they might have some questions, right? Because they're not necessarily always exposed to people that are different or look different. So with parents or caregivers that have to have this conversation with their kids or even amongst themselves, what sort of advice would you give them when it comes to this? What should we ask? Shouldn't we ask?
Yeah,
Give us the wisdom.
I think the main thing is kids are always going to be curious, right?
Yeah.
They're always going to look at me and just, you can see the reaction all over their face.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. You can see like, they're bewildered, you know, they
Yeah.
don't know
They're
what is
trying
in front of
to,
them.
yeah.
And you can see their little minds. And I think most importantly is to encourage that, right? And unpack, you know, and help guide them through what they're seeing in front of them. People immediately, I just see poor kids get pulled, you know, out of the way. Or people say shh, you know, and make them feel embarrassed and actually scream at their kids for having questions. And I always encourage parents, let them ask questions. And as you're trying to guide that discussion, state the obvious.
Yeah.
You know, one of the best interactions I had was with the mom, and she just said, well, as you can see, she needs scratches, and I'm sure it's to help her, you know, she just needs extra help. But also if you have questions, go and ask her. I loved it. You know, so I think it's encouraging that dialogue, not just shutting your child down and pulling them along and expecting them just to kind of put it aside.
Absolutely.
You know, it kind of feeds into that broader societal issue that we have now.
Yeah.
Sure. It must be quite an interesting experience because kids are raw. Eh? They can be like very direct.
You see like mouths on the floor.
Innocently so, though. I mean, I think that's the beauty of it. Now,
Absolutely.
I mean, obviously, with good vibration, with good sort of mental health, those things kind of also associated with each other, and then essentially confidence too.
Yeah.
So when you have these inevitable moments that and challenges that you've got to go through, what is the thing that you use to get your grounding and rise above? Do you have like a mantra? Is it a mindset? Is it a thing you do maybe? Is it a spell?
Oh, if you have a spell, let me know. No, so it's actually a bit of a cliche, but I genuinely practice gratitude. You know, I wasn't supposed to be here past 48 hours.
Yo.
You know, they thought, you know what, if she's going to make it, it's not going to be a good life that she lives. It's going to be a terrible experience. And a lot of people were giving up on me so early on.
Wow.
And so I wake up every day just grateful that I get to be here and I get to
Yes.
experience these challenges. You know, I had to reshift my mindset in thinking that it's not a disadvantage, it's something that's strengthening my journey while I am here, and I should really appreciate that a lot more. And I think that's really trickled down into, like you're saying, my confidence.
Yeah.
You know, I know that when I do things like this, it's beyond just who I am as an individual. It really reshapes society and a movement, and that really keeps me going every single day.
Yeah.
Laura, you are such an inspiration,
know.
man. Like the way you speak, I'm like, okay, you can keep talking for the next forever. Motivational speaker, model, fashionista. She is here to stay with that confidence. That's honestly just boosting me on this Tuesday as well. Thank you for sharing your journey and your story. On social media too, you also share it over there. Where can people give you a follow?
Instagram's probably the best, or TikTok, so Laura Wagner-Meyer, and you'll just see everything that I'm up to, all of my dating stories, all my modeling posts.
See, I love
It's all
to
on
see
social.
it.
The plug is here, but of course she's not going anywhere. We're going to dive into a part two because we need the wisdom and we're not letting it go just yet. So Mzansi, you can stick around because yes, inspiration in its finest form is happening in just a bit. See you there.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Once again, back with you, Mzansi, and back with all the inspiration that we started off earlier. If you weren't sticking around and weren't part of that conversation, you missed out. But we're going to give you a further plug in terms of what's happening when we talk about our mindset, when we talk about mental health. And with Global Disability Awareness Month starting next week, it's time for us to move to action. We want to design a language and everyday choices that make inclusion real at home, at work, and online.
Yeah, and I love the fact that we're moving in that direction and bringing the conversation to the table, along with the gorgeous motivational speaker, Laura Wagner-Meyer, who continues to unpack this topic along with us on our couch. Laura, thanks for being here again. I've got to tell you that language really does matter when it comes to disability or differently abled folks as well. So when it does come to that, what sort of phrases should we retire when it comes to language?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's things that kind of sound restrictive, right? So wheelchair bound, wheelchair user. We use the tools, you know, we're not bound and restricted by them. And another one that I love is people say suffers from. we don't suffer, we're just living with, and it's reframing that word into something a lot more positive and uplifting. And my favorite, I must say, it's typical South Africanism, ach, shame. I have heard all the ach shames since I was a kid. And it's simple, just greet me as you would greet anybody else. And I think beyond phrasing, it's not the details of being politically correct, right? It's about treating someone else with dignity and just being able to kind of learn together more than anything. If I can see that someone is not coming with ill intent, I'll take the time and say, okay, you know what, not the right word to use, but let me guide you through it. Let's chat and find a way, because people genuinely don't know.
They don't know, and I think also people are very unsure of how to handle themselves around situations that they're not used to, right? I've seen a situation where someone that was unable to walk was dealing with a situation and then literally got picked up and taken out of the situation, right? And then not really thinking anything of it, they were quite upset by it. And then it made me realize that someone was taking their choice away.
Yes.
Right? Someone's taking their choice. I mean, they can move on their own. They still have that dependence, but it was kind of taken away. They didn't get that choice. Yeah. Is this something that you might experience? Is this something that people are trying to do in terms of they want to help?
Yes.
But they don't ask if they can help. They just go ahead and do it, right? Yeah. Is that something to be aware of?
Yeah, absolutely.
Could it cause more harm than good?
You know what? I think it's each to their own on that. Yeah. I love when people try to help, because it just shows a bit of empathy, and it's an act of kindness at the end of the day. True. But I think if they overstep, I kind of just start with a smile and I'll just look at them and say, you know what?
Give them that look.
And it's just thank you so much for trying to help. I think I'll be okay. But if not, I'll come find you. But I really appreciate your help, And people are like, oh, okay. And then they kind of leave feeling okay, if I am in need, I will go and seek them out, which is the important part here, right? And, there's been many times where I go back and I'm like, listen, I do need your help. I try to give it a go. It's out of my reach. Do you mind? And more often than not, they'll come right back. So I think it's just kind of, again, guiding those positive interactions, not just bluntly cutting people off and having that little resting face. You have to just be polite.
You experience many opportunities to educate people in your life, right?
Daily, every day.
And I love the fact that you take it on, you know what I'm saying? Because it is a conversation that we should just be casually having. It's nothing to be shying away from, because I think we're often a little bit more anxious about things, to your point, that we don't know about. So let's talk about it a little bit more. Speaking about that, when you are on set, right? When you book a job, because you are a model as well, how do you sort of navigate that space when it comes to producers, when it comes to behind the scenes? Do you give them a checklist? Do you talk with them beforehand? How do you navigate that space?
Yeah, I mean, it's been very interesting. Before I started, everyone said, you know what, it's going to be difficult. You're really going to struggle. So just be aware. And I must say, I've been met with a lot of warm welcomes, right? And a lot of that comes from producers being a lot more open to dialogue. I look at things like, what is the point of inclusion? What is my role? And how much of an impact will that have? Am I just being a token in a shoot? Or do we have, a mass appeal here? Is there something we're trying to drive home and educate people on? And then it goes into the physicalities. It's okay, how am I actually going to get onto set? And more often than not, producers will come to me with a list and say, just so you know, there are stairs, but we can carry you if we need to. We've got this and this, but they come with their own solutions. And I find that dynamic helps so much as well. And they give me the choice at the end. They'll say, we've got all these accommodations, but actually, what do you need? And how can we help you get there?
That's lovely.
So it's been really positive. People are able to be empathetic and actually just put themselves in my shoes and navigate set through all the chords.
Yeah.
It's great.
I mean, the chords are crazy.
Maybe you can sing us off into La La Land right now as we end off this incredible conversation. I think you are someone that is blessed with wisdom. You're blessed with opportunities and experience that have forced you to see the beauty in life. So you're probably the perfect person to ask this question as we head into a moment of mental health awareness. How would you describe mental health in terms of being able to garner the positive side of it? How would you encourage people to take it on and also find that enlightenment and find that beautiful side of life that can put them in a positive mindset?
Yeah.
What would you say to someone like that? How would you encourage them to get there?
It sounds so cliche, but it's accepting the fact that it's okay to not be okay.
Yes.
Even living with a disability, I always thought, how could I not be grateful for my life? Especially on the bad days. You can really feel guilty for that. And I realized, you know, mental health is not just about positivity.
Yeah.
It's actually about how you overcome it and who you allow to help get you to that point. And people kind of get bogged down in the nitty-gritties of self-blame and self-doubt, but you also get to make that choice at the end of the day. You can also guide yourself along with your you know, your communities and get yourself out. And I think it's really important to remember that it's not the be all and end all. You know, you're only restricted by your mind and your abilities even, you know. I always think limitless. You know, if people told me at the young age, you can't do this, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Absolutely. Laura, we love you.
Laura, you're a sage.
Please come back. I love listening to everything that you've given. Yes, you are wise and you are beautiful, and not just your appearance, but definitely your soul. And we see that. And I love the fact that we're just reminded that it's not just about surviving, it's about thriving. Hey, you guys are 48 hours is what Laura was supposed to do, and she's out here living her best life. So follow her on her socials. Like she said, the dating stories and beyond will be met for you right there. And of course, we'll continue encouraging that journey. For now, though, another journey we'll delve into. Let's head over to Joburg to see exactly what Sanele is up to.